Over the last 2 weeks, we've been deep in the story of the church in Russia during the late 1800s and early 1900s, right in the heart of revolution, persecution, and incredible faith under fire. This is all part of our current season here on the Church History Podcast, a season we're calling Church at War. Next week, we'll be moving south to South America for the powerful story of how the church played a surprising role in stopping a war between Chile and Argentina. You won't want to miss that. But today, I wanted to bring you something a little different, a bonus episode. Since we've been immersed in Russian history, I thought it would be fitting to revisit one of the most beloved hymns that connects the great era. This is from a past episode that we did actually a few years ago. How Great Thou Art, a hymn sung around the world today, actually has its roots in Eastern Europe and was written during the time of the Russian Revolution. Its words carried hope and awe in a time of turmoil and fear. So while we take a breath between episodes, I want you to listen again with fresh ears to the story behind the hymn, How Great Thou Art. Here you go. A man named Karl Bobbard was a sailor in Sweden. He felt God calling him to leave his job and start preaching instead. In 1885, Karl was walking with a friend when a sudden storm hit. The men ran to find shelter and waited out the storm. It was a fierce storm, with loud thunder and lightning hitting really close by them. Karl was in awe of how powerful God was. As the storm came to an end and the men came out of the shelter they had found, Karl looked around at the beauty of the wet trees and bushes. He saw a rainbow in the sky. The men walked a pathway home through the forest, and the silence was only broken by birds singing. When Karl got home, he wrote a poem about what he had just experienced. O Lord my God, when I in awesome wonder consider all the worlds thy hands have made, I see the stars, I hear the rolling thunder, thy power throughout the universe displayed. When through the woods and forest glades I wander, and I hear the birds sing sweetly in the trees, when I look down from lofty mountains' grandeur and see the brook and feel the gentle breeze. Then sings my soul, my God, how great thou art. In 1907, a man named Manfred von Gler heard the song and translated it into German. The song became really popular among the German people. Then a Russian named Ivan translated the song into Russian. An English missionary named Stuart Hine and his wife were working in the Ukraine. They heard the Russian song and they really liked it. One day, Stuart heard about a woman who had learned to read so she could read her Bible. The missionary couple decided to visit this woman. When they arrived at her house, they saw her reading the story of Jesus' death and resurrection to a group of people. She was not a great preacher or missionary. She had no training. She was a woman very slowly reading her Bible, but the impact of the words of the Bible were huge. The group listening were crying and calling out to God. The missionary sat and wrote out the words the people were crying. He spent hours with the people, and when he got home, he took out a paper and pen, and using the words he heard that night, he wrote these words. And when I think that God, his son not sparing, sent him to die, I scarce can take it in. That on the cross my burdens gladly bearing, he bled and died to take away my sin. He added the words to the song and sang it as they continued to preach across Ukraine. Joseph Stalin was in power and he was starving the population. The missionary couple were forced to return to England in 1939. They translated the song into English. When the war ended, the missionary couple was working at a refugee camp. Because the couple could speak Russian, they were able to speak with many other Russians who were displaced. One day, they met a man who told them he'd been separated from his wife. He wanted to see his wife again because he had something important to tell her. His wife was a Christian, but he had refused to hear the gospel when she tried to share it with him. But here in the camp, he had heard the gospel and became a Christian. He wanted to see his wife one more time to tell her that he was a Christian. The missionary couple asked if they could help him try to find his wife. He said, "You don't understand. I will only see her again when I meet her in heaven. That is our home now." Stuart added the final verse when he got home. "When Christ shall come with shout of acclamation and take me home, what joy shall fill my heart! Then I shall bow in humble adoration and then proclaim, my God, how great thou art." Somehow the song ended up in India. People aren't even sure how that happened. And in the 40s, an evangelist named Dr. Edwin heard the native tribes singing it. He loved the song, and when he returned to America, he brought the song with him. In 1954, George Beverly Shea heard the song and sang it at Billy Graham's crusade in New York. Billy Graham loved it so much, he made it the theme song for his weekly radio show. "How Great Thou Art" has been recorded more than 1,800 times. It was first written by a sailor who left his job to travel and preach. The song traveled around the world, from Sweden to Germany to Russia to England to India to America, each verse added by another event. Carl, the sailor inspired by a thunderstorm, died never knowing the impact his poem had on the world. Which makes me wonder, what things is God inspiring us to do that will have a ripple effect that will change the world in a way we will never know? Only a God as awesome as our God. Thank you for listening to today's episode on the history of the hymns. We will be returning to our regular church history podcast in September. If you want to hear more podcasts, check out my website, lauraleesiemens.com. If you like this podcast, please subscribe and share these stories with your friends. We'll see you next week.